Welcome in, everyone, to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. This is my post game, and what a post game it's going to be for the second consecutive SEC game for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Back-to-back road wins, back-to-back quad one wins on the road. And now Arkansas is 3-7 in quad one games with a 78-70 win over the Texas Longhorns, renewing an old Southwest Conference rivalry. The first meeting between these two teams, with the Longhorns now members of the SEC. Arkansas will host Texas at Bud Walton Arena later this month on the 26th, I believe, another midweek game. But the Razorbacks get it done. Look, Arkansas played two great halves of basketball on the road at Kentucky to win by 10. I think Arkansas played well in both halves. There's this idea that maybe Arkansas let go of the rope a little bit. I think Arkansas was playing 5-on-8 to finish this game. Had this been a game where it wasn't so lopsided with the calls and some phantom calls in there, I think Arkansas wins this game by 15, 16 points. But you'll settle for the 8-point win playing the Zebras and the Longhorns. Arkansas was not to be denied tonight. This is a lot of storylines here. I mentioned it. Arkansas with back-to-back quad one road wins. Arkansas now 3-7 in quad one games. Guess what? All three wins are away from home, and all three of those quad one wins would have stood as quad one wins at home. So three teams ranked in the top 30 in net. Texas at 25, number 25 coming in. Kentucky was at 10th in net when Arkansas beat the Cats on Saturday. And, of course, Michigan back in December. Michigan's still a team ranked in the top 20, inside the top 20 in net. So it's not that you just went away from home, all three, but they're, a true road win over a team ranked 75th in net would be quad one. So not all quad one wins are the same. And the Razorbacks, I mean, you can go up and down this lineup and look at players that have really turned their seasons around. And it's strange because we talked for so long, going back in June and July, that attrition might be the downfall of this team. And we saw it through non-conference, guys, not healthy, ill. So there was illness, injuries, those types of things. And then you lost your second leading scorer, one of the best assist players in the country, and Boogie Fland. And Arkansas has won 3 of its last 4 games without him. So Arkansas is actually thriving with some attrition. I think there's several reasons for that now that we've seen back-to-back wins. And the Kentucky win wasn't an outlier. The Michigan win back in December is not an outlier. This Arkansas team, we've said it all along, has the talent collectively, individual pieces, but just weren't playing well together with that 0-5 start in league play. And what are we seeing? We're seeing a more cohesive unit. Things are flowing better. Even though Arkansas still has some self-inflicted wounds, unforced turnovers, they're playing through those problems and finding ways to not only stay in games, but now they're taking commanding leads. Remember, they built a 10-plus point lead against Kentucky in the first 4 minutes of the second half. Arkansas led by 11 at as many as 13 points in the first half against Texas. By 11 at halftime, ran that out to a 23-point lead. But by that time, the officials decided they'd get Texas in the bonus at the 16-minute mark, only 4 minutes into the second half. And Arkansas at that point had only picked up 1 foul on the Longhorns. And it just went on that way. There were several plays where Arkansas maybe brushed a body slightly, and Texas is getting the foul on the other end, or on some of those offensive rebounds that Texas started to get. They were knocking Hogs to the floor and getting away with it. And so, it was a really lopsided whistle. I know Arkansas shot 15 more free throws than Texas in the first half, but 10 of those were from Adu Thero, and he was getting tackled. It's not like the refs were letting Arkansas get away with fouls. I mean, those were obvious fouls. He shot the bulk of those 18 free throws, shot 10 of them, made only 5. But I thought this was a lopsided game in favor of Texas when you start talking about officiating. I'm not going to spend much more time on that right now. Let's talk about this big Arkansas win and what it means. I just went through the quad scenario. Here's something else interesting. Arkansas, I'll say it again, 3-7 in quad one. They're 1-1 in quad two. But tomorrow, something interesting could happen with the net rankings. Georgia, who Arkansas beat 2 games ago, has fallen outside the top 30. The Bulldogs were 32nd in net today. If the Bulldogs beat LSU at home tonight, so not a lot of net value probably there, but they did beat them by nearly 20 points. I think just under that, 17 or 18 points. So when the net rankings update tomorrow, if Georgia moves up just two spots to 30, that win at Bud Walton Arena will be back to a quad one win, at least for the time being. That would be 4 quad one wins. LSU came into the day 74th in net ranking. So if LSU drops on at least 2 spots outside, to 76, just outside the top 75, that LSU win over Arkansas and Baton Rouge will no longer be a quad one loss for Arkansas. So Arkansas right now is 3-7 in quad one. Tomorrow, by the time whatever early in the morning net results come out, it could be that Arkansas is 4-6 in quad one games. However, by that math, if that loss slides down to a quad two, it means Arkansas then lost its quad two win over Georgia. It counts as quad one, and Arkansas would be 0-2 in quad two games. But I think you would rather have the 4-6 record in quad one matchups, and you can deal with 0-2 in quad two because you're going to have 2 or 3 more opportunities to pick up some quad two wins and multiple more to pick up quad one. But Arkansas's road record is outstanding, away from home record and road record outstanding. 4-5 away from home. That includes neutral site games, but 3-3 in true road games. And again, those 2 of those 3 true road wins are quad one wins against teams ranked in the top 25 in net. That is significant. Joe Lunardi had moved Arkansas back onto the bubble and among the next 4 out on Tuesday in his bracketology update. And he had Arkansas as the 4th team in the next 4 out, which means there were 7 teams ahead of the Hogs, meaning they were 8 teams slots away from being the final qualifier for an at-large bid if the tournament was going to be selected today based on that projection by Lunardi, who does a really good job. I think with the quality of this win, Arkansas on the update on Friday before Arkansas plays another game could move all the way up and find itself projected in. 14-8 now, 3-6 in the SEC, but I just went through some of the resume. And certainly the away from home. Now remember, Arkansas does not have a bad quad loss either. No quad 3 or quad 4 losses. And that was something that dogged Arkansas's team last year that ended up being a losing record overall, and certainly in league play anyway. But this team doesn't have any bad losses, a really good away from home and road record. Not a winning, but it's really good relative to a lot of teams that when you look at their quad one wins, some of those, probably more of those will be at home for a lot of those teams. And this was a Texas team. Arkansas didn't just beat chopped liver. We can look at Kentucky and say, well, the Wildcats have lost several games, I think 4 out of their last 5, but they did beat Tennessee on the road before playing the Razorbacks. This Texas team had beaten several teams that Arkansas lost to, was coming off a 31-point win at LSU. When we know Arkansas lost by 4 at LSU, we just talked about that, how that quad result ended up, or could end up. Also beat OU on OU's home floor. We know OU won in Fayetteville. That's the only loss in the last 4 games. Arkansas is a whisker away from being 4-0 without Boogie Flan, who, by the way, was on the bench tonight with the Hogs, with the team. He's back with the team. I don't expect he'll return and be a player for the Hogs this year, but, that's been the reporting, and Arkansas hasn't officially said anything, to conflict with that, to counter that. And so we'll see, but I don't expect that. And so now that for some that I saw some social media stuff, Boogie Flint was just a guy chucking up shots. That's not true. This guy was Arkansas's, arguably his best player, definitely in the top 2, but when he went out, and I think what's happened is, even though the attrition for Arkansas said could be a problem, in a way, it's actually helped other guys. And what has been a blessing for Arkansas is that DJ Wagner, Arkansas is not without a lead guard. DJ Wagner has played that role as a true freshman last year at Kentucky. He's playing that role really nicely right now for the Razorbacks. But DJ Wagner has kind of stepped up. And then you're getting production collectively. I think the big name we're going to have to talk about, though, is Nelly Davis right now. He's the one that's flourishing the most. Had averaged 15 points per game in the previous 3 games. Tonight, his best scoring night, his first 20-point game as a Razorback, 24 points, a season high. He was 7 of 15 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3, 6 of 6 at the foul line as a guy shooting nearly 90%. He stepped up and did that tonight. 5 rebounds, 2 assists, only 1 turnover in 39 minutes. He was credited with the 4 steals, but this guy, it felt like he had 1,000,000,001 deflections tonight and disrupting Texas's offense. Arkansas had a stifling defense, especially in the first half, the first few minutes of the second half. And Arkansas continued to play well defensively for the most part. It was that they couldn't secure defensive rebounds. And I thought Texas got away with a lot of, hard contact, knocking out, and to keep balls alive, getting some dead ball offensive rebounds and getting some second opportunities. Texas ends up owning the offensive glass tonight and won a lot of categories. But in my pregame that I did yesterday, I kind of talked about some things I thought would be important for Arkansas. I thought the Hogs took too many threes, even though they were 13 of 25 against Kentucky. The previous game against OU, 9 of 27. I thought maybe getting it down closer to 20 would be a better formula for the Razorbacks, and really attack the basket, become again a blue collar team. I said I don't think you're going to score 89 points in this game, and I think it favors Arkansas to keep this margin in the mid to low 70s. This scoring tally that would favor Arkansas. And that Arkansas just had to find ways to get to the free throw line and generate and manufacture free throws, cut down on those threes, and be a blue collar team. That's what Arkansas did tonight. Arkansas only made 22 field goals on 50 attempts, 44%. Same amount of makes for Texas, but Texas got all those offense rebounds, ended up with 64 shot attempts, so 64.4% from the field, much lower, 10 percentage points lower than Arkansas, but both teams made 22 field goals. Arkansas was 7 of 17 from three, 41.2%. Yet another game where Arkansas was efficient. They took good threes. They didn't force bad shots, I didn't think, from three. And they drilled that down and attack the basket. 5 of 9, by the way, in the second half. A lot of that was Nelly Davis, who had just a brilliant game tonight. 27 of 35 at the foul line. Some of that came late when Texas had to foul, trying to extend the game, and Arkansas was maintaining at least a 2-possession lead and found a way to get it back to 3 possessions to finish out. But 27 of 35, 77.1%. If it hadn't been for Adu Thero's 5 missed free throws in the first half, yeah, he had a 1 of 2 trip in the second half, so he missed 6 total. But he missed 6 of Arkansas's 8 free throws. Everybody else, and we're going to go through individual stats who got to the line. We started with Nelly Davis's night. I thought Nelly Davis, for the second game in a row, looked like a first-team All-SEC player. And those are the only 2 games this year he's looked that good, or looked all-league worthy. So, 18, and now 24 points. He's starting to creep up to what he looked like at Florida Atlantic in terms of an average, at least in these last 4 games where Arkansas's gone 3-1. Arkansas's dangerously close to being on a 4-game winning streak after starting league play 0-5. That was an unprecedented start. This team looks much better, much more cohesive, much more in a flow. I thought Arkansas did a good job of, when I said attack the basket, it wasn't just drives. Arkansas was making interior passes all game long to Big Z. When he went out in the few minutes Jonas Adu, they were feeding the ball to him, trying to score around the basket. Now, Z didn't have a great shooting night around the basket. He did get a couple of dunks in the second half, sandwiched around a 3-point shot that was fueling that big run. And even when Texas was getting back in it, a lot of time living at the free throw line in the last 16 minutes. And Arkansas had a scoring drought there. And Arkansas had some bad offensive possessions. I thought Arkansas missed some opportunities in transition. Again, missed some close range shots. I went through some of that. And then DJ Wagner, who got Arkansas off to a great start. The Hogs had an early 11-0 run, 17-6 lead. He had, I think, 9 points when Arkansas was building that initial 30-17 lead, 13 points. But he went cold. But he did get a drive to the basket late. Adu Thero, when Texas was pressing, trying to get a turnover, got a dunk off good ball movement against the press. And then Carter Knox, what can we say about him? Went 4-4 at the free throw line when Texas was really trying to get back into this thing. Big Z missed the front of it of 1-1, and Texas had cut the deficit down to 5, was on offense. And Arkansas did a great job of turning the Longhorns over in the first half, forced 8 first half turnovers, but only 2 in the second half leading up to the last 30 seconds. And Trey Johnson, who got his 25 points mostly at the free throw line, ends up turning the ball over. And Arkansas gets it back, gets fouled, gets to the free throw line, stretches that 5-point lead on 1-and-1 free throw shooting. So you miss the front end, you're still not in the double bonus. But I think it was Carter Knox that made 2 at that point. Or it might have been DJ Wagner. I'm not sure. Wagner hit 2 of 2 late. Billy Richmond made all 4 of his free throws, including 2 to help ice the win. We're going to go through that 27 of 35 when we look at the individuals. Already said Nelly was 6 of 6. But what an outstanding win. This Arkansas team has picked itself up off the mat and put itself back in the conversation, not only for an NCAA tournament bid, but now, if you can continue this momentum, you've got a chance because of all the quad one win opportunities and some of the heavyweights coming up on your schedule, including number 3 Alabama on Saturday. We'll talk about that here closer to the end. You've got a chance to not only get yourself back on the right side of the bubble, but then start adding to a situation where maybe you can get yourself out of a horrible NCAA tournament seed situation, and as you continue to improve. I mean, 14-8, 3-6 doesn't sound great, but believe me, Arkansas's only midway point of league play, and they're on a roll right now. Calipari, it was odd. I thought I said this before. When he was talking about Arkansas after they'd gotten blown out at Tennessee and had those 2 home losses, Ole Miss and Florida, he kept saying, I have a good team. I've just got to coach them up and get them to play better. And then after that went to an 0-5 start. He changed his tune to saying we got a group of great guys. So he wasn't talking about having a good team. It was more about great guys. There's a possibility here. It's a combination of both. It's just taken a while. I think less is more in terms of not that Boogie Flam was doing anything wrong, but it has opened up. It has put the onus on Nelly Davis to step up and play a bigger role. And you've removed one shot creator. Arkansas, I thought Arkansas's best shot creator for most of the season, out of the equation. And now guys like Nelly and DJ both look more focused and more confident in what they're doing. And that's really helped Arkansas. Somehow the Razorbacks are doing this with Jonas Adu mostly being persona non grata. I keep using that phrase. Trevor Brazile has not been a big impact guy in SEC play. I mean, he'll give you a play or two here and there that help. But Big Z, we haven't even talked about him. 1 point away from a double-double, career high 12 rebounds tonight. There were times I thought he should have had 15 or 16 boards and maybe got fouled and maybe didn't get credit with what he should have. But 9 points on 4 of 10 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3. He missed that front of him 1-1, so he was 0 of 1 at the line. 12 rebounds, 4 big blocks tonight, and he altered shots. He intimidated Longhorns. 2 steals in 35 minutes. He had 4 fouls. Thero with 14 points. They said he was sick tonight. He was being shuttled in and out of the lineup. He did start 4 of 5 from the field, 6 of 12 at the line. This could have been a bigger game for him at 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, only 1 turnover in 22 minutes. And he fouled out with just over a minute to go. And you thought Texas was making that comeback at the free throw line. There were times where Arkansas, just by being in proximity to a Longhorn, that was the whistle and free throws. And on the other end, Arkansas just couldn't get it on those glass battles and go into the back on their own drives. There'd be body brushes on some of those drives. No whistle. Arkansas didn't shoot a lot of free throws until in the second half, until Texas started intentionally fouling to stop the clock. But Thero, that was his game. So he had a good game relative. He had some big dunks, one on Arthur Kaluma. That was a statement dunk. And I thought, this I mentioned in my pregame talking points yesterday on HogvilleNET YouTube Live that was going to be maybe the best matchup to keep an eye on. But really, it turned out to be that was one subset of it. But it was Big Z, I thought, outplayed Texas's big man Shedrick. You look at Carter Knox and Nelly Davis taking turns guarding Trey Johnson. Yeah, he got 25 points. Leads the SEC coming in at 19 per game. 6 of 22 from the field. Only 3 of 9 from 3. Here's a guy that's a prolific three-point shooter, very efficient. 10 of 12 at the line. Okay. So that's where he got most of his points. Kaluma got close to his scoring average. He was averaging, I think, 13 and 8. He had a double-double, 12 points and 13 rebounds. But he was only 3 of 11 from the field and 0 of 3 from 3. He was a 45% three-point shooter, 0 of 3. He made all 6 of his free throws. Julian Larry came off the bench for 11 points. Jordan Pope, who was averaging double figures, nearly 12 points a game. Arkansas held him to 8. And then Tremont Mark, the former Hog, averaging nearly 10 points per game and shooting nearly 38% from 3 on the season. Mark was held to a goose egg. He only got up 2 field goal attempts. One of those was blocked right back in his face. I think that was Thero or Knox. I think one of those guys got it. How about, I didn't even mention Billy Richmond getting a block on a drive late in this game to go with his clutch free throws at the end. Big Z, again, I thought Big Z did a great job of protecting the rim and a better job rebounding lately. He had a double-double, remember, in that 18-point loss at Missouri. And that's kind of been the start of where he's kind of every game now being productive and being Arkansas's best big man. I mean, it's not even close. The two veteran guys, Jonas Adu and Trevor Brazil, are, again, they've kind of out of it. They're not contributing a whole lot. All right, 20 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. We appreciate you being with us. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, like, and share. Arkansas with a 78-70 road win over the Texas Longhorns tonight. Just a monster night, monster back-to-back road swing for the Razorbacks. You welcome in Mark Pope into the SEC as a coach. He played for Kentucky back in the Rick Pitino days when the Wildcats were a monster and had it going. But as a head coach, you welcome him in on his home court with a loss. You welcome the Longhorns into the SEC in this rivalry. I mean, Arkansas is plus 20 in the series after this win tonight, 88-68 all time. They improved to 28-42 in Austin. There have been some classic games back in the old Southwest Conference days, and some good games between the two programs as non-conference opponents. Not a lot, but a few. But Arkansas gets off on the right foot, and you'd love to sweep Texas and do this again. Texas was 25th in net. I don't know how far the Longhorns will fall. Arkansas, again, in I think 4 games from now, will host this team. And as long as Texas is in the top 30 in net, if Arkansas wins at home, that'll be another quad 1 win. But before that, Arkansas hosts Alabama, the third-ranked team in the country. This is easily a contender to return to the Final Four this year. Right now, Bama and Auburn, who's the number 1 team in the country, both slotted as 1 seeds in every bracketology you look at. But Arkansas's got a huge opportunity to pack the house at Bud, just have the body spilling out of the rafters, turn this into a freak show. You've got a 7:30 start. The University of Arkansas announced today that they're moving that start time back 30 minutes. It was to be 7 o'clock, now 7:30 p.m. Central Time. It's still on ESPN, the mothership, primetime basketball game. And Arkansas's on a roll right now, and you get this team at home. This is a huge opportunity for Arkansas to not only win its 3rd consecutive game in 4 out of the last 5, but this would be another quad 1 win for the Razorbacks. And again, we're going to see where the quad stuff sets tomorrow. Arkansas's 10-0 combined against quad 3 and quad 4. No bad losses there. Really good away from home / road record. For a team that's 3-6 in league play for sure. But I think the other thing is you're playing your best basketball right now, and you'd rather be doing that now than slumping hard and losing 5 in a row, tailing away into March. So, everything's in front of this Razorback team right now. 2 games ago, when Arkansas lost at home to Oklahoma after having to, trailing by 15 in the second half against Georgia and finding a miracle to win that game, I thought this season was basically done for the Hogs, especially with Boogie out. But Arkansas has shown now at home against Kentucky and against this team, they can play multiple ways. They played grinding basketball in those 2 home games, even though it did lose to OU at the end. The Hogs went on the road and played match pace with Kentucky and outplayed Kentucky in the way that Kentucky wanted to play and winning 89-79. And then tonight, this wasn't a full throttle kind of a game. But at the same time, it wasn't just a slow down grind game either. Arkansas played, a fairly decent tempo. And again, I thought keeping it out of the 80s on the road against this opponent and keeping those low to mid 70s was one of my talking points. And the formula for doing it, cutting down on the 3-point attempts, find ways to manufacture free throws, being the harder, more aggressive team. Yeah, Texas did a better job on the offensive glass than Arkansas did. And really that hurt Arkansas. Some of their really good initial defensive possessions, Texas securing some of those rebounds. Some of that I put on the refs letting Texas get away with a lot. But some of it was just Arkansas not being as tough on the glass. But guess what? When you build a 23-point lead, you can sustain some really bad stretches on some of those hustle plays because Texas wasn't perfect at the foul line. Again, the Longhorns, I went through Arkansas's full stats. I said Texas was 22 of 64 overall from the field, 34.4%. The Longhorns were also 6 of 22 from 3, only 6 of 22, 27.3%. This team was shooting 37%. That's a really good mark. That was like top 50-ish in Division I. So you held them 10 points in percentage below what their season number was. Outstanding job. Texas ends up 20 of 27 at the foul line, 74.1%. 18 of 24 in the second half, 75%. I'm going to go back through some of the Razorbacks' individual stats. DJ Wagner, his 13 points, 4 of 13 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 4 at the foul line. In my preview talk yesterday, I went through the 5 Hogs that stood out, and it's the starters in the 2-1 run, now 3-1 in the last 4 games. Obviously, Thero, Nelly, DJ Wagner, Big Z, and Carter Knox. And I went through their free throw percentages in these last 3 games, and everybody was over 80% or better, except DJ, who was at 75% on low volume. And I mentioned that DJ last year as a freshman at Kentucky over the season was a 75% free throw shooter. And I said, honestly, that's not bad, but for your lead guard, you need to be 78% or higher. You've just got to be that good. And especially when Arkansas is not a world beater, you just need a guy to be a little better at the line. Tonight, 100% for DJ, 4-4. So maybe he can matriculate that number up and get it closer to 78, 77, 78 as things move along. But tonight he was perfect at the foul line. He got Arkansas off to that great start. Solid overall floor game for him. 4 assists tonight. He had 8 against Kentucky. 3 rebounds, a steal. He did have 3 turnovers, but played another heavy minutes game. I think he leads the SEC in minutes per game. 37 minutes tonight. I went through Big Z's numbers. Carter Knox. One of the things I said yesterday was this guy, one of the 2 things he's really learned how to do: be selective on his shot taking, which is added to his confidence because he's not chasing points or chasing field goal attempts, which is what he was doing earlier in the year. He's understanding a role and playing to that role and playing with confidence. And he's learned how to play with more physicality and do that effectively. Use that big frame. Do other things. 9 points for Knox tonight. He's averaged 10.3 in the previous 3 games. So after this game, he's still going to be at 10 points per game in this 3 out of 4 stretch here, wins for Arkansas. 1 of 2 from the field. He only took 2 field goal attempts. He made his only 3-point shot. That was in the first half. DJ Wagner hit Arkansas's first 3. Arkansas started cold. He hits the first 3. The shot hits the back of the rim, bounds up 20 feet or 15, whatever, I'm exaggerating, and comes back through the net. That was a good. But Carter Knox on a catch and shoot in the right corner, nothing but net. Beautiful shot, but only 2 field goal attempts, 1 of 2 overall, 1 of 1. And he made all 6 of his free throws, including 4 in the closing seconds when Arkansas really had to have that. Texas had gotten it down to a 2-possession deficit, and each time he got to the line, he stretched it back out. And that's a true freshman for you. But 9 points, I went through how he got those. 4 big rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block in 36 minutes. And he also had 4 fouls. He and Big Z finished the game with 4 fouls each. I mentioned Thero fouling out with just over a minute to go. Billy Richmond was big tonight. His 4 points, all at the foul line as well, 4-4. 2 rebounds, a block. That block came late in his 9 minutes. He continues in his 9 or 10 minutes to have positive impact when Richmond's on the floor. And he also, I think, picked up 4 fouls in this game. So Arkansas down to a top 8 rotation. And when you really look at, I think Jonas Adu only played 4 minutes. So they were really down to a top 7 rotation. Brazil ends up playing 18 minutes tonight. But Brazil and Adu, when you combine them, Adu did hit a little bucket in one of those plays where Arkansas made an entry pass. He turned and took a little mid-range shot on the baseline about 10 or 12 feet away. But Brazil and Adu combined for 5 points, 2 rebounds, and a steal in their collective 22 minutes. So kind of similar game to game lately. Not giving a whole lot there. Maybe a play or 2 here that helps you. So I'll give them that much credit. But you expect a lot more from them, especially Adu, preseason All-SEC and a returning All-SEC player, an All-SEC defensive player last year. Calipari's given him no more than a 90% healthy bill, but man, he's not giving you 10% of good health, in my opinion, in some of his minutes. And it hurts Arkansas a little bit lately when he's on the floor. There were times tonight where Big Z really stepped up, and maybe some other times where he got out physical a little bit. But what do you expect? He's improved a lot. He's improved a lot playing in the paint. And tonight I thought he challenged a lot of shots. We're 30 minutes in, and we're talking about an Arkansas team just out with a blink of an eye after losing arguably its best player for the season, has turned its season around. There's a lot more work to be done. Arkansas isn't all the way back yet, but there's no doubt about it. Kentucky wasn't a fluke. we could say this isn't a great Texas team, but Texas was coming off that 31-point win in LSU, had beaten OU, had beaten Missouri in this late stretch of games, recent stretch of games. And, Arkansas's lost to OU and Missouri and LSU. So on this night, and I thought Arkansas was the better team from the outset. I thought the defense was stifling, the in-your-face aggressive style. Nelly Davis made life miserable for Texas perimeter players. And then when they would feed the ball out high to a big, he was jumping those passing lanes and getting deflections, knocking the ball out of players' hands when they try to turn or rip through. Before they even get to that point, he was poking the ball away. And he's just been just a menace. I mean, 4 steals, but it felt like, again, I said he had a 1 trillion and 1 deflections night. That's what it seemed like from Nelly Davis. Overall stats, I went through the shooting for both teams. Arkansas wins at every single level. Better shooting from the field overall, better from 3-point line, and better from the foul line. And what was the case against Kentucky? I think it was the same, wasn't it? They were better in all 3. This is one of the worst offensive teams in the SEC before this winning streak, and even with it coming into tonight, before tonight's win, Arkansas still ranked 84th in KenPom in offense. Texas is a good team shooting the ball, similar to Oklahoma coming into the Hogs game. Good from 2, good from 3, and really good at the foul line. And so, this is a situation where Arkansas has been better offensively than 2 really good offensive teams in Kentucky and Texas on the road. Texas was also no slouch defensively, according to KenPom efficiency ratings, unlike Kentucky. Ranked 36 nationally in Division I in defensive efficiency, Arkansas came in 34th. So basically a dead heat. And I thought Arkansas was the better team defensively, especially, call it the first 35 minutes of the game, first 25 minutes of the game until the whistles took over and Arkansas really wasn't allowed to play defense. If there was a little, if the ref couldn't see perfect daylight between an Arkansas body and a Longhorn, it was a whistle being blown. I thought two of Thero's fouls that got him out of the game late in the game were phantom. I thought Big Z challenged a dunker who missed it and got it clean, and there was a foul called on him. And I thought, again, Arkansas took some hard spills trying to get to 50-50 balls and get those defensive rebounds. And Texas was holding, clamping down, knocking guys down, and that was okay. If it was a dead ball out of bounds, it was Texas' ball. Again, I know I'm harping on that a little bit. That's what I saw. If not for that, this is a 15 or 16-point road win for Arkansas. Maybe better than that, maybe 20. I don't know. But I'll give Texas the nod and say maybe 15 or 16. Someone might disagree with me. Maybe I sound like a homer whiner. I've been around the Texas rivalry going back to when I was 4 years old, and the family was screaming in the living room during those football and basketball games, and that's how I learned what being a Hog was all about. Those games brought a little extra, and that's going to be that way again. This is a great addition. I really wish the SEC would make Arkansas and Kentucky and Arkansas, Texas the 2 permanent round-robin games every year in league play. That's what I'd like to see. Good luck on that. For now, it's Missouri and LSU. Arkansas's got revenge on its mind against both of those teams. They'll host both of those teams. I mentioned they'll get Texas back. They've got Alabama on Saturday. Arkansas still has road games, by the way, after Alabama and LSU at home next week, starting Saturday. Arkansas will then be on the road for 2 brutal ones, Texas A&M and Auburn. Nothing would surprise me now. Arkansas has been a good road team this year, period. Aside from those losses at Tennessee and Missouri, I guess, okay, let's acknowledge that. But look, it's not just Arkansas. Those were 2 blowout losses. Some of the better teams in this league that have better records. You're seeing a lot of, as good as this conference is with 13 teams projected in, there's not necessarily a bunch of tight games every night. There's a lot of blowouts. So it's not like Arkansas is just crap the bed really badly in a couple of games, and that's not happening around the league. It's absolutely happening. So all of these teams are good enough that if they're playing their A game and you're off, those things can happen. Arkansas has been on point against a couple of teams that, again, ranked top 25 in NCAA tournament net on their home court. That is big time. Again, Nelly Davis playing at an all-league level. DJ Wagner has raised his production and has been a solid floor leader. Adu Thero keeps doing Adu Thero things. This wasn't his best game, certainly at the free throw line, but he still gave in 22 minutes. The 14 points, 4 or 5 from the field, and that was just tough drives to the basket. You'd like to see him continue to be a good free throw shooter. 12 free throw attempts in the last two games. The difference was against Kentucky. He made 10 tonight, only 6. But I just keep going through this top 5. Big Z, Knox, in addition to Wagner, Thero, and Nelly. And I said in my pregame yesterday, you're going to have get this done by committee, but that your top 3, it's going to start with Thero, but you need your veteran lead guard because point guard play is very important. And a guy like Nelly Davis, who's really coming on, who was projected as a National Player of the Year candidate, let alone all preseason All SEC, you needed those 3 to lead the way. And what did we see tonight? Well, those 3, and of course Big Z and Knox again as part of that committee. But your 3 biggest scores tonight were those 3. 24 again for Nelly, 14 for Thero, DJ Wagner with 13. So I know I keep referring back to my talking points, but I felt like I had pretty good sights on what it was going to take for Arkansas to win. Now, the one place I was wrong, I did say I thought this would be advantage Texas playing on its home court, and that I understood why Texas would be favored. I didn't know the point spread. I saw it today at 7.5 points, some places 8, and I thought that was a little high because I did say yesterday that I thought this would go to the wire and which team would make the better plays and capitalize down the stretch. And tonight, that was Arkansas. Again, you got a turnover late. Most of the guys hit their free throws late. Yeah, Big Z missed the front end of 1-1. Brazil was 1 of 2. But, Wagner, Knox, and Richmond, I think, combined for 8 of 8 down the stretch at the foul line. And then the other thing was, if it was a close game, I felt like I didn't think it would be a blowout. I did think it would be close, but which team would make the better plays and have the discipline to close out for a win. And I said, it's edge Texas only because they're at home. So I was wrong about that. Advantage Arkansas. The formula to get to this place and be in the game late was right. The outcome was different, and I'm glad it was. And I just didn't have enough proof of concept that Arkansas could be consistently good. Let's not forget that 89-87 win over Michigan, the first quad 1 win, was on December 10th. You're almost 2 months later when you went on the road at Kentucky, when we know what was on the line in that game. A lot of pressure on the Wildcats. Arkansas was jacked up for the return of Cal. Guys were focused in a way I haven't seen them. But for the second consecutive game now, Arkansas has looked like a team, not just a bunch of talented individual parts. They look like a team. It's time Cal let the Hogs out. Arkansas looks like a group that enjoys playing together and is starting to understand what their roles are. I mentioned Carter Knox in that way. Nelly Davis finally stepping up to being that guy. We'll see if they're able to sustain it, but you got to have a good feeling about it because you didn't just do this at home. You went on the road and did it. Now you got to start asking, is Arkansas better? Arkansas's 1-3 in Bud Walton Arena in league play. What are they now in 2-3? 2-3 or 3-3 in SC. Excuse me, Arkansas's 1-3. They lost to Ole Miss, Florida, and beat Georgia and lost to OU. So 1-3 in home games, and they're 3-6 overall. So 2-3 in true road games in the SEC, and they got them back to back here. That's a big deal. That's a statement for the Razorbacks right now because they again return home in what will be a madhouse at Bud Walton Arena for third-ranked Alabama. And Arkansas's got confidence right now. You're seeing that. And again, this is another scenario where if I'm Arkansas, I'm really trying to grind down that pace and tempo and make it a physical attack kind of a game against Bama. Bama can win in more ways than one, but I think you take the fight to Bama on your home court. And you don't necessarily get caught up in a track meet unless you can create live ball turnovers and get out in transition, and you're knocking down threes again. Again, going back to OU, Arkansas took more than I wanted to see in a close game, 9 of 27. I thought it hampered Arkansas maybe getting more free throw attempts by playing that way. But 33% wasn't just god-awful. And then you went 13 of 25 against Kentucky, 52%. And then tonight, again, 41.2%, 7 of 17. So maybe dialing it down and keeping it in that, that 18 to 22 3 attempts pocket. But then again, the game flow and what's happening in the game will dictate that. But I thought that was the recipe tonight for, doing the other things that you need to do to win this game. And that's what Arkansas did. They took 33 shots inside the arc and only 17 outside of it. So 2-1 shooting inside the arc, and I think that was a way to do it because it helped Arkansas create fouls to get to the free throw line, and it also got Arkansas. I mean, we mentioned Thero's multiple dunks. Let's not forget Big Z. He didn't shoot well around the basket, but he had a nice drop step and second half and got to the rim and dunked. He got a nice alley-oop pass from DJ Wagner for a dunk. In between those, he hit a big three, a big Z three that put Arkansas. I think that was the second time. It might have been the second time Arkansas would go up by 23 when he hit his second three. But how about Nelly Davis? He looks so comfortable shooting the ball from distance. He still struggles a little bit the closer he gets to the rim, but he's getting tougher and tougher, and he's having a little bit more success. He had a second half shot where he drove into the paint, missed the shot, and went right up for the offensive rebound, and got fouled on the next shot attempt, went to the line and made 2 of 2 free throws. So he's showing you the blue collar stuff that we always talked about he was going to do. And again, the 24 points supported by 5 rebounds, 4 steals, and 2 assists. What a night he had. But let's go through the team stats now after we've talked shooting. Turnovers 11-9 in favor of Arkansas. It was a better second half for Texas. I think that was part of what helped the Longhorns because they had 8 of those 11 in the first half. So only 3 in the second half, but one of those, again, in the last 30 seconds, it was huge and helped Arkansas get to the finish line. Points off turnovers also favored Arkansas 12-8, so +4 there. The Hogs were +6 at halftime, so they weren't able to build on that. And I mentioned that, Texas kind of won the second half turnover battle, but Arkansas, for the totality of the game, still wins. Arkansas was +3 in overall rebounds at halftime, only +5, Texas ends up +5 in the total rebounds, so -8 overall in the second half. A lot of that, again, was what helped Texas get back in it. Offensive rebounds, Texas 13-3, +10, but only 8-4 in second chance points. Yeah, they doubled Arkansas up, but it wasn't a huge spread. And it's the second consecutive game at Kentucky. That was the one area Kentucky was +11 in second chance points against the Hogs. Tonight, Texas only +4, but doubled the Hogs up there 8-4. Bench scoring, Texas +6, 15-9. Points in the paint, Texas +4, 30-26. Fast break scoring, Arkansas was really good against Kentucky, +13, 18-5 in that game. Tonight, it was Texas, 15-9, +6 in that department. Steals, second consecutive game, Arkansas won steals against Kentucky, 10-2. Tonight, a smaller margin, but +3, 8-5. Arkansas had a big night. The block party was in effect. We mentioned Big Z with his 4. He had 4 of Arkansas, 7. Arkansas +4 in the block shot department, 7-3. Arkansas had 2 more assists tonight than did Texas, 14-12. I mentioned the stats for Trey Johnson, Arthur Kaluma, Pope, Larry, and Mark. Arkansas did it. When you look across the board, it didn't matter. Texas had 3 guys in double figures, but 2 of those were just horrendous shooting from the field. And so that's a credit to Arkansas's defense. Again, if not for giving up offensive rebounds and second chance points, and if not some of that being and the whistles being ref aided, I think Arkansas again wins not only by, like, they beat Texas or Kentucky by 10. I think this would have been 15 or 16, maybe better. And I know I've said that over and over again. It sounds a little bush league. I don't care. It's how I saw it. Agree to disagree, but 78-70 Arkansas rolls in this one on the road. And I'm just going to go back through what this means now. 3 wins in its last 4 games for Arkansas. 3-7 in quad 1. Tomorrow that could be different. There's a potential that Georgia moves up 2 spots and LSU drops 2 spots, where Arkansas goes from 3-7 in quad 1 to that quickly 4-6 in quad 1 wins. But I think this will be enough. Whatever happens there, I think this is potential enough that when Lenardi updates his bracketology on Friday, that Arkansas could actually potentially move up the 8 rungs it needs to be considered one of the last at-large in. It doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, you're just halfway through league play. At 3-6, it doesn't look good, but resume-wise, it's not as awful as the record it looks like it is. The resume is not as bad as how bad this team looked going 0-5 to start league play, because the resume is the resume. It's, again, no bad losses in quad. You've only really been blown out twice in your 6 league losses. Okay. We're seeing a lot of blowouts in the SEC. That's not going to stand out relative to the other teams. And your away from home and road record are really good. 4-5 away from home overall, 3-3 in total road games. That's why even that road win at Miami, even though that's not a good team, it's one of the bottom feeders in all of the Power Five or high major conferences. I think Miami finally won. I think they beat Notre Dame or somebody a home game, but I think they're 1-11 or something like that in the ACC. But a road win against a high major program is still a road win. It still looks good on the resume when you're looking at and comparing similar teams for seeding. If you don't have to scrape in as a bubble team, or even if you do, they're going to stack your resume against other bubble teams. They're going to look at stuff like, yeah, they got the same amount of quad wins, but this team has better quad wins. Teams ranked higher in that, and they got a bunch of them away from home. But a lot of times if your best wins are all at home, that'll hurt you. It has in the past, and teams that get left out or don't get as good as seeding. So Arkansas's laying some ground foundation here that has to take your eyes away from what the record looks like in league play right now, and look at some other things as to why they're making a case. Now, Arkansas still got to win games. They can't shut it down. I said before this game, Arkansas needed to go 5-5 to get to finish 7-11 and put themselves probably on the correct part of the bubble, because there'd be enough quad one wins in there to do that. Right now, after this win tonight, you've got 9 more to go, and you're thinking, well, Arkansas finished 3-6 the first half of league play. Who's to say Arkansas can't finish something like 6-3 in the second half? Then you'd be 9-9. And maybe better than an 8 or 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. Maybe something a little better than that. Depends on if you needed to do a little bit more work in the SEC tournament. I'm just saying that might be on the table now. Why not? This team has obviously gotten better, good enough to beat quality teams on the road. I'm running out of superlatives for this team and the job that Calipari and his staff have done. You can't leave that off the table. I thought that Arkansas had been out-coached a lot in some of this bad stretch. And right now, I feel like it's the opposite. I think they're pushing the right buttons. They've got players to buy into roles. And you can't help but acknowledge the fact that this team is playing well together at both ends. There's a lot of good communication on defense. The movement's better on offense. And again, guys aren't taking shots outside their wheelhouse as much as they were before. They're starting to have confidence. And the way you do that is you play within your game. You can't just do that on your own, especially with some of the younger players. That goes back to coaching as well. So I think hats off to Calipari and the staff for where it is right now. And again, there are going to be people that hear me and say, what are you talking about? They're 3-6 in the SEC. That's right. It's the strongest conference ever. There's still 13 teams projected in. I mentioned the fact that there's blowouts all over the table, so Arkansas don't look as bad relative to that. And now you've won 3 out of 4, and you're playing your best basketball at a time in your season where you want that momentum. Let's not forget Eric Patrick Musselman, EPM, his back-to-back Elite Eights followed by another Sweet 16. All of those teams started slow in SEC play. Not as poorly as this one did. The Sweet 16 team, the third of that run with all those one-and-done 5-stars, started 1-5 in league play. Arkansas was 1-6, so it's similar. But all those teams started playing their best basketball later. So maybe that's just the formula at Arkansas, no matter who the head coach is. Some of Mike Anderson's best teams that were NCAA tournament teams, most of them started slow out of the gates in SEC play. Maybe that's just how it gets done at Arkansas. I don't know. And Arkansas's not out of the woods. There's no formula that guarantees Arkansas is not going to have another collapse and rattle off 3 or 4 straight losses. But it's hard to believe that now because, again, these 2 games weren't just in a vacuum. Arkansas got off the schneid with that home win over Georgia after being down 15 and fought its way back. That takes a lot of character, even if you're not playing cohesively. And Arkansas hadn't had 2 good halves in a game all year against a team with a pulse. You'll probably let one go against OU. You had some bad mistakes, the back-to-back fouling of 3-point shooters. But you had a chance to win that in the closing seconds, down on your last possession, and came up short. But this team has been a team. Whether it has been a smooth ride or not for both halves in these last 2 games, they've had their really effectively 4 solid halves of basketball, back to back to back to back, all away from home. I don't care how close this game got after leading by 23. I'm going to hang a lot of that on the refs. I don't think Texas by itself gets that done. Just doesn't happen. All right, I'm going to sign off now. almost 50 minutes in. I will say this. I went and covered North Little Rock versus Little Rock Central last night because I wanted to see Charging Wildcats freshman, a ninth grader in the 6A Central. It doesn't get better than that in terms of talent and level of play. A ninth grader starts for the Charging Wildcats, Elijah Bryant. He's already 6'3". He's got great length. He's got good athleticism. He's got a hell of a stroke from distance, and he is just steady and calm. He plays like he belongs. He's a savvy kid. He doesn't get up or down. This guy is going to be good. He could end up being that next guy out of the state of Arkansas. Keep an eye on Elijah Bryant. I was so impressed with him. North Little Rock with a 4-point win. It went down to the wire. It was a great game. Big rivalry. The place was packed over in North Little Rock. But Elijah Bryant, remember the name. Let's see how much he grows. He'll be part of the Arkansas Hawks grassroots spring and summer program that plays on the Adidas circuit. That's the plan. And again, he's a ninth grader. So I say recruiting. At some point, Arkansas is going to get involved with this kid. I believe. I think he may just very well have next class of 2028. All right, signing off. I appreciate you being here. I'm Kevin McPherson. If we have to come on here for something that breaks, something that needs to be talked about, we'll do it. But until next time, take care. We'll see you then.